Good evening. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Ask for a roll call, please.
James Fewens.
Here.
Diane Vanderwell.
Here.
James Barnes.
Here.
Sarah Chavilicek.
Here.
Larry Chesney.
Here.
Ed Hawkins for Mark
Here.
Johnson. Kathleen Taylor.
Here.
Peter Gower.
Here.
And David Blako for Shelley Reed.
Thank you. Commissioner Blako, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Possible action to approve the agenda?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner
move to approve
Vanderwell.
the agenda.
Commissioner Garrell, a second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Do we have any public comment?
Yes, I have two for this item. Russ Earl, and then after that would be John Boon.
Good evening, folks. Russ Earl, President of the Silver Hills Community Organization, for the record. Seeing that I have so many things to say, I'll start this one here and finish it up and comment on the specifics. And this is all pertaining to the Silver Hills. First of all, I wanted to inform you that today our attorney filed lawsuit against Washoe County and the county commissioners with a writ of mandamus pertaining to Silver Hills. So that's just for the record so you folks know that. Second of all, I just wanted to start with your 2012 regional plan and where we feel this Silver Hills does not meet the master planning goals and policies. Under Section 4, the plan implementation, the proposed plan is in violation of 4 of the 6 factors, number 3, 4, 5, and 6. Compatibility of the proposed plan with goals and policies regarding infill development, housing, and housing job balance. This is not infill, this is sprawl, and this does not qualify for anything to do with infill. Compatibility of the proposed plan with existing planned public service areas, policies and priorities, availability and timing and phasing of infrastructure, physical analysis of service and provisions. There is no availability of any infrastructure right now. There is no sewer out there. They do not have water. They have plans for water. The sewer is a huge issue. All of their effluent would go to this Stead treatment facility, and at the time there is plans to increase that to 4 million gallons per day, but Silver Hills is not a recipient of one of the 19 letters of promise of service from the city of Reno. So there will be no availability for anything to do with sewer treatment plant for the Silver Hills development, let alone even going to 4 million gallons per day. There is not a concrete plan what to do with the effluent. And even in your 2012 plan, it talks about the complications of a closed hydrologic basin. So at this time, we have no plans on how to get rid of any effluent. So until that comes about, there should be no more additional approval for housing. Number 5, compatibility of the proposed plan with existing military installations. I tried to get a hold of Lieutenant Colonel Wagner out at the Army Aviation Facility today to confirm. There's no letter from anybody stating, and I know that there will be increased noise complaints with 2,000 new homes in close proximity to where Chinook, Black Hawk, and Kiowa helicopters are going to be flying, and that will impede their training. And the cumulative and indirect effects of the proposed plan, it's going to be definitely negative on the surrounding area. I've already talked to somebody in the assessor's office, and they already know that they're going to have to reassess all the houses in that area with acreage in a downward fashion, but that can't be done until we already start seeing the spiraling down. And the owner of Dixon Realty also told me that owners of homes with acreage will have dramatic decreases in their property value if they can even sell them. I'll follow up later. Thank you.
Thank you.
And next up, I have John Boon.
Thank you. I wanted to get a chance to give my comments to you guys in case I have to leave by the time the agenda item on Silver Knolls comes along. From my point of view, this proposed development is a poster child for what we have a regional plan to prevent. As you know, the planners in Washoe County, the Washoe County Planning Commission, the NVCAB all opposed this unanimously, and that happened for a reason. That didn't happen arbitrarily. It happened because they took the regional plan seriously and their obligation to implement it seriously. In contrast, the county commission saw things differently for reasons we can speculate upon, but it's a good example in my mind of why people can be cynical sometimes about whether or not their elected officials are actually representing their interests or somebody else's. I would like to emphasize that the tax-paying residents of this region, this community, have made absolutely crystal clear as they possibly can, that they do not want sprawl, that they do want infill, that they do want compatible development, and these developers had every opportunity to propose something that would qualify under those criteria. In fact, members of our community worked with them for years upon years in good faith to try and identify a proposal such as that would be compatible development. Everything I have heard from them in favor of this new development is nothing but smoke and mirrors to detract from the basic fact that under our regional plan, this is something that should never see the light of day. It does not meet those criteria. And it boils down to one question. Do we have a regional plan and planning process that means something that people can rely upon in planning their futures and knowing what to expect? Or is it just window dressing that goes away as soon as it's inconvenient for somebody who wants to develop a property? So I would hope that you will see it in that way, with respect for our regional plan and respect for the will of the people who live in this community, and deny this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other public comment?
I have none more for this item.
Thank you. So we'll close this public comment item and move on to item 5, approval of the minutes. We have 4 sets of minutes to approve.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Vanderwell.
I move to approve the minutes of September 11th, 2019.
Is there a second?
Chesney, second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Abstaining, okay, thank you. Item B,
Madam Chair, I move to approve the minutes of September 25th, 2019.
Chesney, second.
thank you. It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes for September 25th, 2019. All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain, thank you. Item C,
Madam Chair, I move to approve the minutes of September 26th, 2019.
Chesney, second.
it's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of September 26th, 2019. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. 2 abstentions that time, okay. Item D,
Madam Chair, finally, I move to approve the minutes of September 27th, 2019.
Chesney, second.
thank you. It has been moved and seconded to approve the minutes for September 27th, 2019. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. On to item 6, the consent agenda.
Item A in the consent agenda for possible action, possible adoption of the advanced schedule of RPC meeting dates.
Sorry. Possible adoption of the advanced schedule of RPC meeting dates for the calendar year 2020.
Thank you. Is in, all right,
Madam Chair,
thank you,
I
Commissioner
move to
Vanderwell.
approve the consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Vanderwell and seconded by Commissioner Gower. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now on to the business of the day, and Jeremy has eaten his Wheaties to read this entire into the record.
Here it goes. All right, business of the day, it's item 7A for possible action. Public hearing, regional plan conformance review. Washoe County Master Plan Amendment CR 19-009 and Project of Regional Significance CR 19-010, Silver Hills, an amendment to the Washoe County Master Plan North Valleys Area Plan 2. Number 1, remove 4 parcels of land totaling plus or minus 780.32 acres from the Silver Knolls Suburban Character Management Area and create a Silver Hills Suburban Character Management Area, and add the 4 parcels of land totaling the plus or minus 780.32 acres to the SHSCMA. And 3, amend the North Valleys Area Plan Character Management Area map to reflect the removal of 4 parcels of land totaling the plus or minus 780.32 acres from the SKSCMA and into the SHSCMA. And 4, create a character statement for the SHSCMA. 5, create a new land use policy, NV.1.8, to allow the following regulatory zones in the SHSCMA. A, public, semi-public facilities, or PSB. Low-density suburban, LDS1, 1 unit per acre. C, low-density suburban 2, LDS2, 2 units per acre. D, medium-density suburban 3, or MDS3, that's 3 units per acre. E, parks and recreation, or PR. F, open space, OS. G, neighborhood commercial. And C, and H, specific plan, SP. Number 6, create a new Goal 7 within the North Valley's area plan for the proposed SHSCMA to establish a land use pattern, site development guidelines, and architectural guidelines that will implement and preserve the Silver Hills community character as described in the North Valley's vision and character statement as they are proposed to be amended. 7, renumber the remainder of the North Valley's area plan to allow the insertion of the new Goal 7. 8, create policy NV.7.1 to require that at least 50% of the residential parcels located to the east of Red Rock Road and within the SHSCMA are at least 1 acre in size. 9, create policy NV.7.2 to require a minimum lot size of 1/2 acre for residential parcels located to the east of Red Rock Road and within the SHSCMA, and to allow a residential density of 3 dwelling units to the acre for the area of the SHSCMA located to the west of Red Rock Road. 10, create policy NV.7.3 to require a new subdivision established within the SHSCMA to include an open space buffer of at least 50 feet in width adjacent to any dwellings existing prior to the adoption of the SHSCMA, and to require that all new parcels within 200 feet of existing parcels match the size of the existing parcels. 11, create policies NV.7.4 through NV.7.11 to establish development standards within the SHSCMA, similar to policies NV.4.6 through NV.4.10 from the SKSCMA, including varied building setbacks, varied architectural elevations, open fencing, minimum 2-car residential garages, dark sky exterior lighting, new dwellings located adjacent to existing dwellings to be single-story in height, landscaping that emphasizes native vegetation, and implementation of these standards through actions by Washoe County. The proposal is considered a PRS for A, housing exceeds 625 units, B, sewage exceeds 187,500 gallons per day, C, water usage exceeds 625 acre-feet per year, D, traffic exceeds 6,250 trips daily, and E, student population K through 12 exceeds 325 students. The subject property is located on both the east and west sides of Red Rock Road, north of its intersection with Silver Knolls Boulevard.
Thank you. I'm asking the board for disclosures. Meaning, have you had any communications with the developers or any such? Commissioner Turner?
Commissioner Taylor, I met with the applicant's representative.
Okay. And as a disclosure, I live in Silver Knolls, but I am not adjacent to this development, and I have no pecuniary interest in this project.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Gower, I also spoke with the applicant's representative.
Thank you. Any other disclosures? Thank you. I'm turning it back to Jeremy to give some more explanation to the commission and to the public.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's Jeremy Smith again for the record, Interim Director at Regional Planning. We wanted to just, before we do the staff report presentation, indicate that this is a bit of a unique scenario in terms of the voting and how the motion needs to be made. There's really 2 parts to it. The first is a master plan amendment, which requires a full majority, 2/3 majority of the 9-member Regional Planning Commission. The second part is a project of regional significance. Now, that has different voting requirements. That's a majority of the existing quorum. In this case, I think that would be 5 people. And the reason it's a project of regional significance is really covered in Appendix 4 of the 2012 Regional Plan, which describes resolution number 13-06 of the RPC that defines the guidelines for the definition of projects of regional significance. And under basically number 1, it states that the following guidelines apply to projects which are proposed by anyone other than a public utility, and that the project will require a change in zoning, a special use permit, an amendment to the master plan, a tentative map, or other approval for the use of land, which, if approved, will have an effect on the region of increasing. And then there are the thresholds, which Nate will go through, but basically there's a series of triggers, and the fact that this master plan land use is allowing that increase in density over those thresholds makes it also a PRS. So sometimes we can have a master plan amendment that sets up an area for some future project to come in. In this case, we really see these two projects going pretty much hand in hand. And so what we want to do is, when we do you guys do make the motion to approve or deny or whatever the course of action is going to be, that we address the master plan amendment first, because the project of regional significance really cannot happen without the master plan amendment being approved. I think I got it, yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. And then additionally, I would remind I am opening this up for a public hearing, and that reminding my fellow commissioners that we will hold our discussion until after all the public comment. You can certainly ask questions of staff or questions of the applicant, but we'll close the public hearing and bring back to the board for discussion. With that, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, Commissioners. For the record, Nate Kusha, TMRPA. So the case before you, as you know, is a master plan conformance review, as well as a project of regional significance for the Silver Hills development. So the amendment site is located within the North Valleys area plan of the Washoe County Master Plan on the east and west sides of Red Rock Road, north of Silver Knolls. Overhead, you can see the regional location up there. The proposed amendment to the Washoe County Master Plan includes the removal of 4 parcels totaling roughly 780.32 acres from the Silver Knolls Suburban Character Management Area and the creation of the Silver Hills Character Management Area, transferring the 780.32 acres to the new Character Management Area. So overhead, you can see the subject property kind of in the black crosshatch there. That would be the new Silver Hills Suburban Character Management Area. Currently, the subject property plus all of the adjacent yellow on the map overhead is the current Silver Knolls Suburban Character Management Area. Excuse me. Overhead is the aerial imagery of the subject site. So in addition to the master plan amendment, the proposal is considered a project of regional significance for housing, sewage, water usage, traffic, and student population. The actual figures are shown in the table overhead, and this table you can also find in your staff report on page 3.
23.
To help visualize the project, overhead is the land use plan as well as the proposed acreages from the Silver Hills Specific Plan Development Standards. Currently, the Silver Hills project has an entitlement of 680 units. This amendment seeks to increase that allowance by 1,192 units, which would result in a total of 1,872 units altogether. So policy 4.1.3 of the 2012 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan identifies 6 factors the RPC must consider related to master plan conformance review and projects of regional significance, which are listed on the slide, and we'll kind of go through each of these briefly through the presentation. So the first one is regional form and pattern. So the subject site is located near the edge of the TMSA. However, it is closer than some nearby approved developments. It is adjacent to existing residential development, and it is also currently master planned for residential development. There are slopes present on portions of the subject site from 15 to 30%, as well as slopes over 30%, which is considered the development constraints area per policy 2.2.1 of the 2012 regional plan. These DCA areas are not proposed to be developed, and majority of the open space identified in the subject site is spatially coincident with these sloped areas. The applicant has also transferred density from these sloped areas to more developable areas of the site at a ratio of 1:1. Due to the distance from the region's core, the site is not considered infill. However, it is in proximity to the Reno-Stead industrial area, as well as the Reno-Stead airport, and adjacent to existing residential development. Approximately 4 acres of commercial land use are contemplated as part of the proposal, and increased dwelling unit density may lead to increased affordability. For public services and infrastructure, the project is slated to sewer to the Reno-Stead Water Reclamation Facility, which has planned upgrades to treatment capacity from 2 million gallons per day to 4 million gallons per day by 2023. However, while there are proposed options, the effluent disposal method for that capacity is unclear at this time. The water will be served by Tumwa, and for flood mitigation, the Silver Hills Specific Plan Development Standards identifies that 125% of the increased stormwater from the site will be either retained or detained on site. In addition, there will be traffic impacts to Red Rock Road and US 395. The 2035 Regional Transportation Plan identifies the widening of Red Rock Road in the 2022 to 2026 timeframe, as well as a phased approach to widening US 395 from North McCarran to Stead Boulevard by 2040. However, the portion from Stead Boulevard to Red Rock Road is listed in the unfunded projects of the RTP. Finally, the Washoe County School District is working with the applicant and will be requesting an elementary school site within the project. For military installations, it is close to our 3,000-foot buffer of the Reno Stead military installation. However, no impacts are expected. Finally, cumulative effects. There is currently an oversupply of entitled dwelling units within the TMSA. For example, there are over 20,000 potential units already approved in the North Valleys, and this constitutes over 1/3 of the consensus forecast's 20-year projected need for housing. And there are roughly 90,000 potential units inside the TMSA, which is approximately 200% of that consensus forecast projected need. Entitled units have a varying degree of near-term viability, and the proposed units may have more near-term viability than previously approved projects. There are also roughly 10,000 potential housing units slated to sewer to the Reno Stead Water Reclamation Facility. And depending on the timing of hookup of the Silver Hills development, as well as other previously approved potential units, there may be unanticipated competition for capacity. So in addition to the development standards, there were self-imposed mitigation criteria, which were included as part of the motion of approval for this item from the Board of County Commissioners' October 22nd meeting. So the first one of those is that prior to the approval of any Silver Hills tentative map, the applicant shall prepare a facilities plan that ensures the concurrency of infrastructure, facilities, and services with the proposed development, including evaluating the need for new sewer treatment facility or improvements to existing facilities, determine what critical stormwater improvements are necessary, review all emergency access alternatives, and confirmation that stormwater retention is 1 to 1.5, which is actually an increase from that previously stated 125% of the development standards to 150% flood mitigation, and extend water infrastructure to the park in Silver Knolls. Secondly, upon final approval of the specific plan, the applicant may only construct 150 units per year cumulatively until construction commences on the NDOT US 395 North Valleys project, Phase 1B, which is the widening of US 395 between North McCarran Boulevard and Golden Valley Road. These are just two of the criteria that were approved. There are more criteria in the staff report in attachment 5. You can see them. So in conclusion, our analysis examined impacts generated from the proposed development and evaluated to what degree our region has planned to deal with those impacts and to what extent this development promotes the goals and vision of the 2012 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan. It was a nuanced and very close evaluation, but ultimately we came to a recommendation of approval based on the criteria of the 2012 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan. So with that, you can find suggested motions overhead or on page 32 of your packet. This concludes staff's presentation. Team RPA staff as well as Washoe County staff are available for any questions you have.
Thank you. Is there an applicant presentation? Okay, thank you. Is there anything from county? Thank you. Okay, we'll open it up to public comment, but please be prepared for questions from commissioners at the end of public comment. Public comment.
First up, we have Russ Earl, and then after that is John Boon.
Good evening, Russ Earl again, Silver Knolls Community Organization. First of all, I wanted to say our organization is not against development. We are against not smart development, basically. This is sprawl. Had they stuck with their 680 or even gone to 780, which they could do, we had no problem with. And as you also have shown, there's oversupply. So if they would develop to current zoning, we would have no issues with this. We wouldn't even be here. But we are. So Module 3, back to where I started, public services and facilities. Necessary public services and facilities to support new development are or will be available and adequate based on adopted levels of service standards at the time of impact of the new development. Well, the county sheriff was stated in a letter to the county commissioners meeting that they said there would be a decrease to the level of service he could provide. Although the developer has said he is willing to kick in a $531,000 one-time payment for both sheriff and fire, that doesn't even pay for a fire station for a year. So these are short-term smoke and mirrors. It makes him look good, but it doesn't suffice in the end. Other things that we have problems with, no sustainable design or construction in the plan. I asked the developer about creating solar. He said it wouldn't sell. He'd lose money. He didn't want to deal with it, although it is a requirement in the 2012 plan. It's a violation of policy 3.5.3.2, which talks about it has to be concurrent with the impact that services are available. Going to Module 2, actually I'll go to 1. Avoid environmental degradation. It's going to increase ozone particulates, carbon monoxide, because they're going to have 19,000 vehicle trips per day. Congestion. They can't optimize infrastructure because it doesn't exist. Delivery of municipal services. Again, the sheriff says that it's going to degrade our service out there. The plan does not encourage the use of multimodal transport. Everybody's going to be dependent on car out there. There is no bus route, so we have problems with that. This is not infill development. Module 2, plan does not encourage land use that promotes responsible management of the region's air. As I said, CO2, particulates, ozone. We're already close to being in violation of the ozone for the region as it is. We had 19,000 vehicle trips per day. We're going to be over it. Policy 2, urban wildland interface, and density is a recipe for disaster. We had retired Chief Ken Pimlett of the Cal Fire Director. He said we're replicating Coffee Park in Paradise, California for public safety with the urban interface. We don't have the resources here to fight a fire. Our fire chief has been suspiciously silent on this matter because he's been promised a free firehouse by the developer if this proposed project is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have John Boon, and then after that is Ramey Pratt.
I won't reiterate, just a brief extra comment or two. As Russ said, the people in this particular community that's going to be affected were eager participants in discussions to create compatible development in that area for years upon years. I don't understand what kind of gyrations one could go through to come to the conclusion that what's being proposed now, which is about triple the density of what exists next to it in a disconnected fashion, is anything other than sprawl, and it's certainly not infill. That seems like torturous logic to me. If it looks like sprawl to that degree, it's sprawl. One other issue to consider, I would ask you, and I'm sure you're aware of this, but the only access to this proposed development is what's currently a two-lane road. There is not another way to get in. Now, yes, Red Rock Road could be widened to 4 lanes. There are approximately 40 houses that have driveways that enter directly onto Red Rock Road with absolutely no feasible way to route their access to Red Rock Road to feeder streets. It's just impossible. It is literally impossible to do. So either you're going to condemn, if you approve this, ultimately 40 people to try to turn left onto Red Rock Road across 4 lanes of traffic in order to get into town or to get out of town, or you're going to have to condemn houses. And I think to even contemplate doing that when, as it was just reported, there is a excess of currently entitled properties that meet growth needs would be just the height of irresponsibility. It would be hard to explain to people why their life's being turned upside down when the need is not any more pressing than that. So I would ask you to consider those issues when you engage in your deliberations.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Ramey Pratt, and then after that is Lou Christianson.
Good evening. For the record, Ramey Pratt. I am a local insurance agent, and I work for a brokerage. We represent multiple companies, including Lloyd's of London. The issue that I have living out there is the public safety portion of it. ISO rates all the fire departments. They rate it on a scale of 1 to 10. The North Valleys area out there is somewhere between a 7 and a 10. The higher that number, the higher your insurance rates and the more likely of not being able to be insurable. What Truckee Meadows Fire Department recently had an interview with ISO and an audit. That did not go well, so those rates are already going to go up. We add another 1,800 houses in there. It's going to really have a major impact. The packet that you were handed out is excerpts from emails I got from two of my Lloyd's of London underwriters talking about eligibility criteria. A couple of things they noted. They look at where the fire department is. They don't necessarily count volunteer fire departments. They don't necessarily count mutual aid agreements. You get the typical old nursing home answer, depends. It depends on what kind of equipment they have. It depends on their training, their staffing. It depends on how much water they can take. As Mr. Earl's already defined, there's not a lot of water out there. Put homes, another 1,800 homes out there would be basically a death sentence in the event of a catastrophe. They've already referred back to Paradise Fire, Camp Fire. My underwriters are telling me the big two differences between the Paradise and Camp Fire and where we are now, the folks in Paradise actually realized that they were sitting on a powder keg and began to develop a route of regress or way to get out. We don't have that. And you'll notice on the second page there from my other underwriter, I didn't get her name on, put her name on there for her, but her question there at the end is when there's a catastrophe and you got livestock coming out and fire trucks going in on a 2-lane road, that the math don't work. When it comes down to the insurability of the homes, a lot of the homes in his projected plan, yes, $300,000, that's affordable. However, your insurance rates are not going to be affordable. If they can't pay for that, if they can't get insurance, the banks typically will not fund a loan. While I believe Mr. Listener's probably a very nice guy, I really don't think he's going to carry paper on 2,000 homes. I don't think he's just that nice. So that's my thing here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Lou Christianson, and after that is Michael Welling.
Good evening. My name is Lou Christianson. I'm a longtime resident of Silver Knolls, longer time resident of Washoe County. This board's advertised approach to planning is to address land use planning, natural resource management, infrastructure, and service provision in Washoe County. Silver Hills project being considered should be rejected when evaluated by these measures. It's bad land use planning. It's developer-driven changes to existing land use policies, which suits the needs of maximizing benefits to the builder and externalizing cost to existing residents. In numerous meetings and presentations, the developer has tried to sell the project as something which is needed by the community. This project does not meet those needs. There are other projects already further along which better meet regional needs. For instance, housing along the 395 corridor. This proposed project is the worst type of development, medium to high density construction of homogeneously patterned buildings on previously undeveloped land at the periphery of the metropolitan area, sprawl. This project has no merits for resource management. Airshed. Over my 30 years in Silver Knolls, I have watched the pall of air pollutants in the inversion-prone Lemon Valley increase, where once it was limited to a trace at the east side of the valley, it now covers the entire valley. Watershed. Blind boosterism at work here by the developer. Given ample evidence of problems managing runoff to Silver Lake and Swan Lake in the past few years, it is difficult to imagine the Silver Hills project, with its creation of many hundreds of acres of impermeable surfaces, not contributing to flooding problems in the greater Lemon Valley. The developer is proceeding on a wing and a prayer for this problem. Wildlife. There's a very active migration corridor for native ungulates, which includes the Peavine Peak to the south and the Peterson Range to the north. The west side of this project is in that corridor. It's hard to imagine how this improves wildlife habitat in any way. Infrastructure and service provision. How Nevadan, the developer is betting on the come that sewer, water, transportation, police, and fire service will be available. The developer's one-time contribution of $300 per residence for these services will be long gone, and more will be sorely needed as the enduring cost for this development persists. This type growth, urban sprawl, does not pay for itself. Costs are externalized to existing residents and come in many forms: increased tax dollars, pollution, congestion, diminished quality of life. Reject this project.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Michael Welling, and then after that is Rich Gabriel.
Good evening. My name is Michael Welling. I've just presented you with a voicemail and text message bit that went on between Mr. Listener and myself in June of 2018. In the year previous, the county commissioner and Mr. Listener with Kitty Jung agreed to cut a fire break behind my property. The following year, in 18, I went back to the commission because in 17, the fire break wasn't done. So in 18, I went back and spoke to the commission and asked them to do something about it and let them know that it wasn't done. So on June 6th, while I was on vacation, Mr. Listener sent me a voicemail, which is the first page. And it went back and forth. There was some discussion about how he wanted to talk about the fire and so fire break, et cetera, and fire ideas. Well, if you go all the way to the last page after I told him that I'd already put in the fire break that he was supposed to put in, his comment was, "Excellent, good job." And then with his little emojis there, he put, "Looks like that's off our plate." The problem is it's not off his plate. He still hasn't done it, okay? Understand that item 10 on your paperwork here says that he's going to have a open space buffer at least 50 feet in width adjacent to any existing dwellings prior to adoption of this, and requires that all new parcels within 200 feet of existing parcels match the size of the existing parcels. There needs to be a clarification here, okay? When he made that statement to the county commission, he said he would exact match the parcels. NRS says 1 acre match. On the 195 acres on the east side of Red Rock Road, adjacent to the airport, in that if he matches those parcels that are on there, starting with the 80-acre parcel in the middle of it, by the time he gets done, he has 40 acres to put a house on. Approximately, that's just rough estimate, which means that the density on the west side far exceeds anything that we're discussing here, plus the commercial, plus the park, plus. So I'd like you to get that understood, what that means when we say that we're going to lot match. Because 80 acres, 12 acres, 3.5 acres, 2 1/3 acres, et cetera, doesn't pencil out based on what we're trying to do here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up is Rich Gabriel and then Jay Allen.
Good evening. This developer has done some haphazard traffic planning. If you look at what the kind of development we're going to have up on Red Rock Road, we've got Silver Hills at 1,872 housing units, Silver Star Ranch at 1,600 housing units, Evans Ranch at 5,679 housing units. That's going to drop the service level of service rating down to D or F for Red Rock Road, and it's our only thoroughfare up to Silver Knolls. Right now, we have what's estimated to be about 7,300 trips a day on Red Rock Road. With all these developments happening, it's going to shoot up to about 90,000. That's a big change. And we're talking maybe, 6 lanes of traffic. It's going to be a busy deal. And I don't think this has been planned very well. I think, the original plan was for a much smaller number of houses. Perhaps we could stick with that and see how it goes and then gradually grow instead of jumping up ahead and trying to cut these guys slack at every point to up the impact they're going to have. This is going to be a massive burden on taxpayers for a new urban blight we're going to have up there. So please, slow this guy down. Let's go back to the original plan. We have no problem with our 680 houses or 780, as Russ said. Let's go with that and see how it goes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have no further comment for this item.
We do have one to read into the record.
Jeremy Smith, Interim Director. For the record, I have a comment to read in from Bonnie Klude. 7A, Silver Hills high housing density, totally inappropriate for Red Rock wildfire hazards. Number 1, no reliable water. Number 2, no road system able to handle traffic, estimated emergency traffic. Number 3, no sewer. Summary, wildfire zone, formal classification. The Red Rock area is designated to be in an area very likely to have extensive wildfires from lightning alone. Increased population along wild areas increases likelihood of human traffic caused wildfires. Number 1, no sewer system, only a makeshift proposal which does not adequately meet needs. Silver Lake is already affected. Number 2, no reliable water source. Water from Honey Lake in California is a major source to be managed by Truckee Meadows Water Association, but California law allows California to end export of water during times of drought. Number 3, no quality road system. The present road is only 2 lanes. Even a 4-lane system will not safely manage dense housing development traffic. Roads inadequate for emergency evacuations, such as Red Rock fires frequently require. One happened in the last 5 years. Increased population sets up problems worse than the horrors of the recent fire destroying Paradise, California. First responders are opposed. Fire, police, medical.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else wanting to make public comment before I close public comment and bring it back to the board for discussion? Okay. Come forward and then fill out a card for. Oh, all right.
I'm Jay Allen. We're okay with the current zoning. I ask that you don't change the zoning as it currently is. One is Silver Lake. Silver Lake's currently full. There's barrier isolators lining Red Rock Road. It's a closed basin just like Swan Lake, and I don't need to bring up the fiasco that was, but one difference is that Silver Lake is surrounded with warehouses with millions of dollars of inventory and equipment. As far as the fire department, that's been brought up, and he did say that he would build a fire department, actually a building, but staffing has always been a problem. Stead has been open sporadically. The next station is the one on North Virginia, just north of Bonanza Casino. That also has only been open part-time. Okay, there's always been a problem with funding the staffing for firehouses. Police protection, as it stands right now, the response time is anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour and a half. You're going to be increasing the population approximately fivefold. I don't know, Washoe Police really, when I've asked them, have had no real clear plan as to dealing with the increase in population and what that can do to response time. It's just a high amount of people, and anytime you increase the people, your response for anything from heart attacks to various crime is going to increase, and there's just not the infrastructure for it also. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Do we have any other public comment?
I have none.
Anyone else wishing to make public comment before I close public comment and bring it back to the board? Thank you. Public comment period is closed. Bring it back to the board for questions. And I'm just going to come down the line. Commissioner Blako. Commissioner Hawkins.
Thank you, Chair. I have a few items here. Talking about the density of the project, I'm looking at your figures of 625, and you want to propose 1872. You're killing them. That's all I can tell you. You're killing them. Too dense. Keep it with what we have now and no proposed increase. That'd be great. I've been working with John Flansburgh on the effluent problem we have in Swan Lake area. Until we get a handle on that, I don't think you can move forward on what you plan on doing out there. And third, I'd like to see where the schools are going, handle the population of the new students. And those are my 3 areas of concern. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Barnes.
Yes, I have 2 areas, traffic and water, and I don't, if there was a path forward on this, I wouldn't have a problem with it. With those 2 concerns, I haven't seen those adequately addressed, so those are the reservations that I have.
Anything else?
What's that?
Anything else?
No, that's
Okay,
it.
all right.
Just those 2.
Okay. Next. Water, yeah.
Thank you.
Traffic and water not addressed, yes.
Oh, where do we start?
Anywhere you would like.
Okay, let's start with some questions. With the Reno Stead Water Reclamation Facility, what happened? We've been given, or at City of Reno, we've been giving some numbers on the proposed units that are coming in, what's going to be planned, who has their will serves. And obviously, there isn't enough capacity at this point to meet everything that's out there. What happens if this development moves forward and there isn't capacity there? When they go to get, because from right now to when they actually build, it's going to be a few minutes, right?
Yes, correct. So with that, we do have the self-imposed mitigation criteria for the project that was part of the motion from the Board of County Commissioners motion, and that requires them to prepare that facilities plan. And at that time, they will evaluate the capacity needs and either see if there is capacity at the current plant, or if they need to enhance it, improve it, or build a new facility. That's part of the self-imposed mitigation criteria.
Okay, but if there isn't capacity, they don't get to build.
Correct, yes, that's reviewed by Washoe County at time of tentative map, and if capacity isn't there, then they cannot build. That is correct.
Okay. Traffic.
Yes.
They can build 150 homes per year until the Phase 1B
Correct,
of NDOT.
correct, which is the beginning of the widening of the 395, US 395.
So if NDOT pushes their plan, or whoever pushes their plan, there's not funding for it, and they get to their 152nd home, or whatever, what happens?
So they can't build past 150 per year cumulatively. So 150 per year until that's begun. So if it keeps getting pushed, they're maxed out at 150
Okay. But there is a plan for that
for the
in the future, for the widening of the traffic.
Correct.
And there's a plan to widen the reclamation plant, correct?
Correct. They increased treatment capacity from 2 million gallons per day to 4 by 2023. And the widening of Red Rock Road is in the 2022 to 2026 timeframe. And the 395 widening project is in different phases.
And if that doesn't happen, they don't get to go forward.
Correct.
What about emergency services?
So for public safety, it is not contemplated in our regional plan nor our statute to kind of evaluate that in our analysis. So we don't look at
Who does?
that. That would be county.
And so will the county get to review this project at some point for emergency services?
They look at the tentative map stage, all these things, and I can turn it over to county staff if you'd like to hear more about that process.
Okay, so, hold on.
Yes.
Thank you so far. I have a question about one of the findings in the natural resource constraints.
Yes.
On it was on the top of, or bottom of page 4, we say, or in the report it says, there were no other natural resource constraints identified on the amendment site.
Correct.
Okay, so then when I go to the conformance review evaluation form, it is marked, let's see, it looks like it's the bottom of page 48. It says, is the site located in an area of significant habitat for sensitive plant or animal species? And it is.
Sorry, which
Sorry,
page is
it's
it?
48. 48.
48. Got you. Do you want to answer that?
Chris Tolley, Team RPA for the record. So this box, we check using some of the county information. This would be across the board for all projects through all jurisdictions. So if there is any habitat that rises to that level, then we check this. But that isn't an indication of an applicable policy in the regional plan being turned on, if that makes sense and answers your question.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Thank you. Yes, we do need more clarification on that.
Yeah, I can step in here. So I think what we're trying to say is that the wildlife habitat portion of that may be present on the site, but that is not listed as one of our strict development constraints.
Exactly.
Thank you. Okay, so now for the next steps. If this moves forward, what are the next steps for this project? And what happens?
It will be officially approved through the commission here if you guys do approve both portions of it. And then they would have the ability to go ahead and move forward with building the development. It would then
I
go.
think there's one more step. It would need regional governing board approval, and then.
So it doesn't need, so neither of these will need the regional governing board approval if it's approved by the commission.
If it's approved at this level,
Correct.
okay.
Then that's it. And then it would move over to Washoe County's development review process, which goes into tentative map, final map, and all those things.
So more of if there was going to be a trip reduction program, would that come through in a tentative map?
No.
Yes. I'm getting head nods from county staff, yes.
Okay, so if the developer, if they wanted to have a trip reduction program, that would be something that they would present in the tentative map, not at this stage?
Yes. I'm going to say yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
That's it so far.
Did you have, Commissioner Taylor, did you have questions of county staff before we move on to the next commissioner?
I don't think so. I think head nods are good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Commissioner Vanderwell.
Okay. there I'm on. I pretty much echo most of Commissioner Taylor's questions, so they were answered adequately. I guess I want some more clarification on the 150 units per year, okay? So that is a self-imposed by the developer, so that is the maximum they will build each year?
Yes, that is our understanding of it.
Okay, so in doing simple numbers, if they do 150 units per year, it takes them a little over 12 years for full build-out.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
And that requirement is only if the NDOT
Only if the
US
NDOT
395
does not.
widening
Okay.
doesn't commence.
Okay, terrific. All right, and then I just wanted to, what I wanted to do, though, on this is I wanted to bring some history to the commissioners that are currently sitting here. I sat on Washoe County Planning Commission when the developer was talking about putting this piece of property into the city of Reno. And at the time, Commissioner Weber spoke to the developer and said, please keep it in Washoe County. And so he did. So he was able to work with this. So I guess with that, had he gone into the city of Reno, we would be sitting here discussing 2 times the units that they are proposing right now. I lived in Cold Springs for 23 years where this developer developed. He made sure that he was a good community partner and that he would do what he said he would do. So I think we need to look at this very seriously because the developer could at any time go to City of Reno and we would be staring down 2 times the units that we have right now. We can't reattach? Okay, then I misspoke.
Anything else, Commissioner Vanderwall?
That's it.
Commissioner Gower?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nate, can I just ask you a clarification question on the traffic? So 150 units a year,
Yes,
assuming that no NDOT improvements are made.
correct.
So in 10 years, there could be 1,500 units with no NDOT improvements.
Theoretically, yes, that's until they start that phase 1B of the US 295 widening. Yeah, there 150 is allowed.
So if NDOT isn't planning on those improvements in a 10-year timeframe, how can we say that the infrastructure will be in place to support that number of units?
So it is contemplated, portions of that widening are contemplated within the 10-year timeframe per the regional transportation plan.
To NDOT's right away?
The
395?
395, yeah, the regional transportation plan outlines all of the freeway improvements as well as regional projects.
Okay. Can I ask another question, and legal counsel might need to weigh on this, but why, if this was submitted to regional planning after the 2019 plan was adopted, why are we reviewing it against the 2012 plan?
Commissioner Gower, Jessica Prunty for the record. My understanding is that the application for this amendment came into Washoe County Planning. It was considered on August 6th by the Washoe County Planning Commission, but obviously it came in before then to their staff. Our regional plan wasn't adopted by the governing board until October 10th. Any processes that started at the local level for amendments that would be coming up to regional for conformance review would be viewed under the plan adopted at that time, or the plan in place at that time. So after October 10th, anything that was submitted to the local levels would be considered under the new plan.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Chesney?
I have no questions, I just have concerns.
You're on.
I got a real problem with the density at the level that it is. Enormous concerns with infrastructure and promises. It's all smoke and mirrors. I followed this project for the last 5 years rather intimately, and I don't have any faith in the fact that the promises for water, sewer, and traffic and emergency services are going to be there when this development is done. And I'll state right now that I can't make the findings that need to be found, and I can't support the project.
Commissioner Fewens.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nate, in your presentation, you spoke that military installations for 3,000 feet, and in the staff report was 5,000 feet?
Yeah, I believe we do have a typo there. Our buffer per our GIS mapping, it's not a strict buffer, but it is what we analyze when looking at the maps for conformance review is a 3,000-foot buffer. So it should be the 3,000 foot.
Okay. And that was on page 29.
Yes.
It's just- Okay. Dun, dun, dun. So, also you had checked that on the page 50 with compatibility and goals and regarding infill development, and you'd said you checked yes on that. Then in the report on page 27 at the beginning, it says this site is not considered infill development. So why would it be checked on the, well, in your report it says it's not infill, and then
Right, so you're talking about the
yeah, so I
policy
guess
415?
yeah, so my question, I guess, would be, how did you come to the conclusion that it is an infill project?
So our policies on our regional plan don't require all development to be infill, so it does meet the compatibility with the policies in our plan. Even though it's not infill, it is, you know, it still can be developed. We don't require all development to be infill. It just simply requires master plans to encourage infill development.
Okay, thank you. And I have a question for Washoe County planning staff, if they can come up, please. Thank you, Nate. Thanks for coming, sir. In your professional opinion, could the Washoe County planning staff, in your professional opinion, make the required findings in the regional plan?
Thank you for the question, and through the chair, I'm Trevor Lloyd with Washoe County Planning and Building Division. The original recommendation from staff was that we could not make the necessary findings. However, the county commission through Washoe County certainly can make those findings. But originally, no, the Washoe County staff, if you look at the original staff report that you should have in your packet, the recommendation was denial based on the fact that the findings could not be made.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so I have questions.
All right.
In terms of when, with reference to fighting to compatibility, proposed plans with goals and policies regarding development constraints. Am I correct to say that in your staff report, you said that the majority of open space was going to be in development-constrained areas?
So the majority of the open space has slopes on the premises, but doesn't mean it's necessarily development constraints areas. A lot of those slopes are that 15% to 30% slope, which is not considered DCA, but there is a small portion of DCA in that portion of the amendment site.
But is it fair to say that from 15% to 30% that the proposed open space is in those areas?
Correct.
Thank you. As Commissioner Vanderwell referred, when this project was first detached from City of Reno and put back into Washoe County, the applicant met with homeowners over several months. And it was either the 680 or the 730 homes. But at the time, the developer made allowances for equine access to open space. I do not see that in this proposed plan.
That's not something I think we would look at
Okay.
the regional level. That would be at the Washoe County Tentative.
In terms of, well, finding 4 has been covered sufficiently, but I'll have other comments when it comes to that. Number 6, with regards to public safety roads, has, in terms of when we say cumulative or indirect effects, has the impact on existing wells and septic systems to existing homeowners been addressed with the initial discussion about 100% of effluent being stored on the project? Has that been addressed?
So we at Regional don't see any impacts to the developments out there that are already on septic or well. We haven't seen any of that, and I believe that would be reviewed in more depth at kind of the tentative map stage.
Okay. With reference to, when you, in your discussions with the applicant, and I can ask the applicant that question as well, you planned for the project itself, how many hookups there would be to the treatment facility, to sewer. But if existing homeowners that live within corridors of where septic water, sewer water, and natural gas would go, if existing homeowners were going to have the opportunity to hook up to those facilities, has that impact of existing homeowners hooking up been planned into this treatment, water treatment and natural gas, water access?
I'm going to turn that over to the applicant to answer.
Okay. Thank you. If I could have an applicant response, please.
Hi, Madam Chair. For the record, Garrett Gordon Knight. Can you rephrase the question?
So in your report or in your submission to regional planning for consideration, you made consideration for the project, all of the number of homes within the project for access to sewer, water, and well, actually you haven't even addressed natural gas, how these homes are going to be heated. But did you account for the opportunity for existing homeowners to have the opportunity to hook into sewer, water, and natural gas if they're on where these corridors are going to be cut?
That will absolutely be considered. So when we went to the county commission and all these concerns were raised, we've heard them throughout, not only your concern, but concern about sewer, about effluent, about water, all the way through the process. So what did we land on? We landed on a self-imposed facilities plan, and the county commission liked the idea and approved it. Now, what is that?
Define that, please.
The condition reads, prior to the approval of any Silver Hills tentative map, so that Commissioner Taylor's point, zero development can occur unless the following happens. The applicant shall prepare a facilities plan to the satisfaction of Washoe County that ensures the concurrency of infrastructure, so the road issue, 395, Red Rock Road going from 2 to 4 lanes. There has to be concurrency with infrastructure. There has to be adequate facilities. Would include analysis of the sewer treatment plant. And if there isn't capacity, then we have to build one. Let me say that again. We understand on the record that when we do a facilities plan, that there's not capacity, we cannot build one house unless we build a new sewer treatment plant. It's here. We cannot move forward. Number 3, and services proposed within the development, including evaluate the need for a new sewer treatment facility or improvements to existing facilities, determine what critical stormwater improvements are necessary to the east side of Red Rock Road. Includes all the residents on Red Rock Road. We heard concerns about stormwater. That's in our facilities plan. Again, no tentative map approved until we deal with that. Review all emergency access alternatives. We heard today there was concern about fire access. The fire chief got up at the Planning Commission and the County Commission and spoke in favor of this project. He said on the record he did not have any fire public safety concerns, but we put this in our facilities plan to ensure there's adequate emergency access. Number 3, stormwater retention. Washoe County Code says 1-to-1. We self-imposed going from 1-to-1 up to 1 to 1.5. So I think the staff presentation that said we were bumping up to 125% actually underestimated what we're doing. We're going up to 150% self-imposed stormwater retention. And finally, again, we heard from the neighbors that there was an issue with current water infrastructure with Silver Knolls Water Co-op. So we're going to extend water infrastructure to the Washoe County Park, to Silver Knolls. On our dime, extend that down. Facilities plan. So again, nothing happens, no tentative map until that happens. And one other point, which I think is germane, is our character statement, which is in the Washoe County Area Plan. In my 15 years of doing land use law and representing developers, I have never seen such a self-imposed stringent character statement, which to Commissioner Hawkins' point, which is very important about Swan and Silver Lakes, this is in the character statement. We cannot move forward unless we satisfy these conditions, which say we have to improve fire and police protection, we have to provide support to the Silver Knolls Mutual Water Company customers. Here's the last one. We have to design the sanitary sewer and stormwater system to maintain levels that are at or below pre-development flows in the Swan and Silver Lakes. If this development shows in one tentative map that one additional molecule of water from our development will go into either of those lakes, then our tentative map should be denied and shall be denied according to this character statement. So I'm happy to answer any additional questions, but we work so hard to address all these issues in this facilities plan to show all these concerns. The burden's on us to prove up that in order to build these homes, we got to show and make a lot of findings.
Okay, thank you very much for that clarification. Just as a point of order, you said that the existing residents could hook up, but you have not answered my question. Was if existing homeowners hook up to municipal services, was that factored in to your report?
To which report, Madam
To
Chair?
how many people, how many acre feet or how many gallons of water would have to go into sewage treatment? You accounted for the homes within the project. Did you account for homes outside of the project that would wish to hook up?
In our under Washoe County Code, in the North Valleys area plan, to move forward with a change to the master plan, we have to do 3 feasibility studies: water, sewer, and stormwater. And the sewer facility plan contemplated what impacts our development would have and what sewer capacity would be needed. So I think to your question, I don't think that was specifically addressed, but I will say here on the record and the record at the Washoe County Planning Commission and the County Commission, we have a long list and a long record of all the facilities issues from roads to sewer to stormwater that the county and us have a long list of. And we understand even that issue has to be addressed in our facilities plan to the adequacy of your esteemed, educated Washoe County staff in order to move forward. So you can expect that to be in our facilities plan for sure.
So my final question, what was so egregious about the existing character management area statement that you felt you needed to write an entire new one?
So let me take a step back. So let's start with the community meetings. We've had between 10 and 12 community meetings. We had 2 homeowner association meetings. We went to 1 open house, 4 neighborhood advisory board meetings, and 3 visioning workshops. And to your point, Madam Chair, we heard loud and clear, do not change our Silver Knolls CMA. Because if we change it for you, the next developer is going to come down and we're going to change it for them. So what we did was we created our own character management area. We said, okay, we're not going to touch Silver Knolls. You can stay there, you can stay status quo, but we're going to propose to change ours. And I know we're deviating from the findings of a master plan amendment and conformance review, but I think this is important. So what we did with that analysis is we sat down and said, okay, let's look at the findings of Washoe County of when it makes sense to create our own district. Number 1 is change circumstances. We had a robust market analysis on the record about the affordable housing, the attainable housing, and the workforce housing crisis we're having in Northern Nevada. And our economic analysis said we need missing middle homes. We need homes between 200,000 and 400,000. And we're going to provide that missing middle. And don't take my word for it. Lifestyle Homes, as we heard from Commissioner Vanderwell, build out Woodland Village. This is what they do. This is the product they build. They're bringing that product into Silver Hills, Silver Knolls, because there's a changed circumstance in Northern Nevada. So we created our own character management area. We kept as many as we possibly could design standards. You see, we did a red line and compared them against each other, and we kept almost every design standard. But we looked at 2 things to make sure we were doing the right thing for this community. Number 1, there's a cap in the Washoe County North Valleys area plan of 2,000 new units. The community behind me and you, Madam Chair, said there can't be more than 2,000 new units in Washoe County. How does our project apply to that? With our unit count, there's still 800 more units of capacity. So I would argue this community said what we're proposing falls right in the conformance because we're under that 2,000 cap, leaving 800 more units. This has all been studied. We're under that cap. And number two, we did a specific plan to say condition us, condition us, condition us, condition us. We want to be conditioned. We want to do this right. And we have a 50-page condition, including horse equine trails. I think that was on our presentation at the Washoe County Commission, showing trails are open, horse connections are open, we're ready to go. And finally, let me stop on the density, right? The Washoe County Code, the old regional plan said we couldn't go more than 5 units per acre. We're at 2.4. We're at 2.4. We're at 2.4 units. That's important. 2.4 units per acre.
Until our council gavels you, so.
That's okay, Madam Chair. I was just answering your question.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank
Any
you.
other questions of Commissioner Chesney? Chesney, you look like you had a question.
Well, I just, you say that you want to make this affordable housing, and this is for the developer. You want to have affordable housing, but then your self-imposed mitigation criteria, if you look at it, most of us weren't born last night, to meet your own criteria, you're not going to be able to sell these houses for $300,000 or $400,000. I've been in this business for over 50 years, and it isn't there. It don't pencil out. It don't pencil out now, and it won't pencil out 5 years from now.
For the record, Garrett Gordon, I'm happy to walk you through Woodland Village and give you the history of that development and the history of those
Our
sales
council
prices.
is suggesting that, no, I'm hearing you, I'm seeing you shake your head no, if you would like to add to that.
I'd like to
No,
respond.
Madam Chair, if there's a question pending, of course, the applicant's
Okay, all right.
representative can respond.
Was that a question or a statement, Mr. Chairman?
Statement.
Okay.
Okay.
Madam
Mr.
Chair, I have a
Taylor.
question for Washoe County, please. Thank you. So I thought I heard you say earlier that you recommended denial. Washoe County did.
That was the original recommendation. However, that was for, that was for the request for the master plan amendment based on Washoe County's purview. It was not a review of the regional plan, which is what you're reviewing tonight.
So with the self-imposed mitigation criteria that we've seen now, does your opinion or recommendation change?
It certainly provides for a significant amount of mitigation for the infrastructure, for the services. We would have to probably, in order to provide a more professional review or answer to your question, we would want to go back and analyze that based on the new information that was provided by the applicants.
So denial is not necessarily true at this point with this new information?
With the new information given, I cannot answer that question.
Okay, thank you.
So for clarification, you're not reconsidering denial, you cannot answer.
Correct.
Any other questions?
Madam
Commissioner
Chair,
Gower.
follow-up question for regional staff, and it relates to a couple of the findings, cumulative jobs, housing balance, and compatibility of the proposed plan with existing and planned services and infrastructure. Because we're a regional body, Nate, can you talk to us how you evaluated the PRS against other proposed development that's happening in this area? So for example, in the city of Reno, Stonegate is going through a similar approval process. It's a little bit farther along in terms of its approvals in the sense that it's coming online through tentative maps. How does your evaluation at regional take into account those types of developments and potential impacts?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we're looking at the cumulative impacts, we did kind of take these previously approved entitlements into consideration. Things in the same valley, such as Evans Ranch or Silver Star Ranch up north off Red Rock Road also. And it's regional TMRPA staff, rather, opinion that this project is closer in than those projects. And the impacts from any of these developments is kind of comes down to timing of kind of who builds first, right? Who's going through that process at a quicker pace. And so while there may be treatment capacity constraints for one development versus another, it really comes down to who comes in for that tentative map review, and that will serve first. So it's kind of a first come, first served basis. So that's how we look at it. And this project we saw as the increase in density with the chance of increased affordability as a potential pro to the project.
So I guess my concern goes back to the traffic question, and specifically with 395 and NDOT. So with Stonegate, there was a lot of discussion at the city of Reno with phasing of development, similar to what's being done here with sort of this incremental increase or allowance of increase of traffic over time relative to the proposed phasing improvements along that corridor. My concern is that all of these developments coming online are kind of doing the same kind of incremental phased increase with the assumption that NDOT is actually going to move forward and funding is going to be available to do those improvements. So it's different from the concurrency that we're talking about and that Mr. Gordon talked about, where a house cannot be built until will serves are in place. A house cannot be built until a fire station is in place. This type of concurrency is a little bit different because there's sort of a leaky faucet, right? Of 150 units every year, hoping that the pipe is going to be there to accommodate the traffic coming out of those units. So we're putting a lot of hope in NDOT in our state that those improvements can be made, not just for this development, but for Stonegate and for all the other ones going on in the North Valley. So how does regional staff look at that in the lens of concurrency under the 2012 plan?
Right, so it is something important for the Planning Commission to consider per kind of our cumulative impact or effects discussion, that all of these will be using the Red Rock Road, for instance, and with the 395 widening that serves all of these projects. However, from regional's perspective, we have to look at each of these projects independently as well as cumulatively, and the near-term viability of any one of these given entitlements varies, and we can't really make a determination of what's going to build before another. However, this project does seem to have some more near-term viability and may be a better use of the land than what was previously proposed on that land.
Madam Chair, thank you. Jeremy Smith, for the record. Commissioner Gower, also to add to that response, past practice of our agency has been to some degree, shy away from an analysis of cumulative impacts. That is something we took on head-on during the regional plan update as part of our Truckee Meadows annual report, tracking absorption, tracking approvals, tracking changes to master planning. That's where we're trying to go. We are in a situation now that's transitional, where we are looking at the 2012 plan, but certainly myself and I think others want to get to the 2019 plan. So what we've done here in this transitional time, and we have transition in staff, we have a new person sitting here, and we're trying to, even in this staff report, take a more comprehensive look at the cumulative impacts, which is why we included the information about the units approved in the North Valleys, as well as the units approved across the TMSA, as well as pointing out the potential timing issue of the competitive nature of everyone trying to hook into the same planned improvement. And that really is a key component moving forward, and I would anticipate needs to be a key component of the facilities plan that gets created for this project. How will the addition of these units impact existing facilities planning? So I think you're on point, and we are trying to move our agency into that direction to make that more of a front and center piece.
Thank you. And I appreciated the analysis and what we saw in the staff report for cumulative. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Vanderwell.
Madam Chair, I have a question for Washoe County staff, please. Can you explain to us what happens during the tentative map stage?
Yes, and I was the case planner on that project, and again, through the chair, Trevor Lloyd with Planning and Building. And I think you have to go back about 10 years or so to...
No, what I want to just understand is
Tentative map
just
in
tentative
general.
map in general. So for Washoe County, what are the requirements at the time to issue a tentative map? I apologize if I wasn't clear.
Thank you. My memory is not very good,
That's
so
right, sorry.
thank you. Yeah, again, this is one step in the process. The next process would require submittal of a tentative map in order for any development to happen on this site. We go through a very rigorous process. The applicant submits a complete application, and that application, it goes through a public hearing process, similar to this we're hearing tonight. It does require a comprehensive review by all of our reviewing agencies, the health district, engineering, planning, fire, your emergency responders. All of them would have an opportunity to provide significant input. And if services and facilities are not available at the time of tentative map review, the project would simply not be approved, or it would be conditioned upon. So basically, would not be allowed, the applicant or developer would not be allowed to move any dirt until all of those required services and facilities are in place.
Okay, and that would include the self-imposed restrictions also?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, so we are now at the time of, I'm just going to ask Mr. Smith, Director Smith, to reiterate to the board the process we need to take on the two considerations.
Absolutely. For the record, Jeremy Smith, Interim Director. So again, this is kind of a unique situation where we have a master plan amendment that actually is sort of generating a project of regional significance. The project itself cannot move forward. We can't really evaluate the project without first having an approval of the master plan amendment. So the order of operations, as you can see kind of on the motions above, which is slightly different than what is in your staff report. In the staff report, we had bundled them together. But because the voting requirements are actually different, in terms of voting on an MPA, we need a 2/3 majority of the full membership. So that's 6 yay votes to have it pass for the master plan amendment. For the PRS, it is a majority, a simple majority of the quorum. So in this case, since there's 9 folks, it would be 5. So there are two different kind of requirements on the voting, and again, we would not be able to approve the project of regional significance without first having approved the change to the master plan. So it really needs to go in that order, and these things, we're kind of viewing them as going hand in hand, but it is a unique situation. So we want to do the first motion, vote, and then I think the second motion, and then vote again. Is that?
Are all commissioners clear on that? Any questions? Okay. So our first plan of action would be a motion for the master plan amendment. Commissioner Vanderwell.
We can move things along. I move to find the Silver Hills Amendment to the Washoe County Master Plan and Project of Regional Significance in conformance.
wait.
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
Commissioner Vanderwall, if you could please.
Oh, okay.
This one.
Thank you. I move to find the Silver Hills Amendment to the Washoe County Master Plan in conformance with the 2012 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan based on the findings listed in the staff report.
Is there a second?
Commissioner Taylor, I second.
Okay. So, point of order, then we can have discussion, or actually, I'm just going to poll each commissioner on their vote. Would that be correct? Okay, Council Prunty?
Madam Chair, Jessica Prunty for the record. Yes, you can have further discussion if you want, or you can call for the vote.
Okay.
If you're going to have a roll call vote by each individual, that is fine as well, whatever is your preference, ma'am.
Is there discussion before we take action on the motion? Okay.
Madam Chair, may I add 2 quick comments? I did reach out to Reno planning staff. The planning manager regarding this agenda item, and she did not have any concerns from Reno's standpoint, and her staff did not have any concerns. I am also very aware of NDOT's 2023 start date of the US 395 project for Phase 1B. Thank you.
Just to add to you that, I appreciate you reaching out to City of Reno planning staff, but this project is wholly within Washoe County.
It was strictly for facilities management.
Okay, thank you. So I will ask we'll do a roll call vote. If you are voting no, you need to indicate the findings that you cannot make within the 6 findings.
James Fewens,
Aye.
Diane Vanderwell,
Aye.
James Barnes,
No.
And you'll need to indicate where you can't make findings, Commissioner Barnes.
I cannot make the finding on findings 1, 3, and 4.
Thank you.
Sarah Chavilicek,
I am a no. I cannot make findings in 1, 4, and 6.
Larry Chesney,
I'm a no. I cannot make findings in 3, 4, and 6.
Ed Hawkins,
I'm also a no. I cannot make findings 1, 3, and 4.
Kathleen Taylor,
Yay.
Peter Gower,
No. Particularly findings consistency with the proposed plan, regional form and pattern. 3, compatibility with the goals and policies regarding infill development, jobs, housing balance, compatibility with planned public infrastructure, and cumulative indirect effects of the proposed plan.
and David Blako.
A vote yes, okay. We heard here, or I heard here.
Yeah, okay.
Motion fails. Motion fails. We do not move next to the project of regional significance. Okay. Thank you. We're on to item 8, reports.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jeremy Smith for the record, Interim Director. So a couple of things to report today. As part of what we approved on the consent agenda was the advanced schedule of meetings for next year, 2020, for the Regional Planning Commission. We will be canceling the January 9th meeting that's proposed, and we will be holding the January 23rd meeting. That is due to a scheduling conflict with the City of Reno's Planning Commission that was unforeseen. We actually moved the date of our meeting from our typical Wednesday night, like we are now, next year till the fourth Thursday, in order to kind of, avoid those conflicts. But right off the bat, we got one. So we'll be coming back here for January 23rd to look at a few items. Items that are upcoming on that meeting will be the daybreak development and a few other smaller items as well. Further, we are working to schedule the schools subcommittee meeting, which has been kind of a difficult thing to get all of the schedules aligned.
We laugh because we've had multiple meeting dates.
Yeah. So my goal is to get a firm date for that meeting, which consists of a subcommittee of this body as well as a subcommittee of the Regional Planning Governing Board. A firm scheduled date in early January before we break for sort of the Christmas holiday. So you can expect more emails and doodle polls from me on that. and we really want to get that started. And then finally, we will be contacting each and every one of you on the Regional Planning Commission to contemplate Regional Planning Commission training, which is something that's required, and we want to make sure we have everyone up to date.
With the new plan.
That's right, with the new plan especially, so it's really appropriate that all members would participate in that training, and so we'll be contacting all of you to schedule that. And finally, if I don't see any of you before then, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Thank you.
So you dealt with, but that was your report. So do we have any members or directors' reports?
That was the director.
Oh, that was your report, members' reports. No. Legal counsel report.
Madam Chair, Jessica Prunty for the record, nothing to report, and happy holidays to everyone.
Item 9, request for future agenda items.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Vanderwell.
I think when we're having developments that are coming from the different jurisdictions, since each one of us sits in a different jurisdiction, if we could understand how, when the project is approved, what are the next steps? Like with Washoe County, so we know it goes to tentative map, and they deal with that differently than like the city of Sparks. I'm speaking for city of Sparks. That the tentative map at Washoe County, okay, they have to meet all of that criteria. In other jurisdictions, the criteria is differently. And I think I, as a planning commission, would like to know what those different, how development works once it's been approved and it goes back to the local jurisdiction. I think that would help with some of our decisions.
Particularly with the new plan because of
Correct.
with the
Yes,
addition
with our
of being
cross-sell.
more robust with
Correct.
cumulative effects.
Yes.
Any other requests for agenda items? Item 10, public comment.
Yes, there's one. Michael Welling.
Madam Chair, I'm not able to read the names, so the constituent to your right who did my name is Michael Welling, by the way. I live in Silver Knolls, but to you particularly,
It's Commissioner Vanderwell.
excuse me, Commissioner Vanderwell, I was deeply disturbed that you gave a commercial for lifestyle homes in the middle of this meeting tonight. I don't care how long you've lived there or what you've done or what he has and hasn't done. I know what he didn't do at my house, okay? Understand this. You're living in that area for 23 years, has nothing to do with what you're supposed to do tonight. And I encourage you to sit down and spend the time to understand how this takes place. Obviously, your constituents know how the city, county, and the Sparks deal with different items. It is appalling to hear you say those words. Also, to Mr. Gower, I understand that you brought up the project north of this area. I also know that your city council and your planning commission said that had that project gone another month longer before you adopted the new master plan, that you could not have approved that project. I sat in meeting and heard your people say those words. So to bring that up tonight was inappropriate also. I understand the part of this where it grows and it grows and it grows, but also it would be appropriate for you to have said that had that gone on a little bit further, we could not have approved that based on the current plan for the city. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
I believe we have one more.
I'd like to bring some positivity back to the floor.
Thank you.
Happy holidays. Thank you very much. This has been a trying and tumultuous project. I'm sure it's not over yet, but it takes an awful lot of effort on your part, to every one of you commissioners here, to look at it, and everybody has differences of opinions as to what it is, and of course we have ours and some of you have yours, but I thank you for spending the time and listening to us. I mean, some of you don't live out there and may not have to deal with the 395 traffic on a daily basis. Some days it's not bad, many days it is, and we're getting that time of year where it's going to be bad. And the trickle-down effect, as you had said, 150 here, 150 there. It'll catch up with us, unfortunately, if this does go to fruition. But thank you for taking the time. I appreciate that, and we do appreciate what you do because you don't get paid to do it.
Thank you. Any other public comment? I'm going to quit asking.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, can you just fill out a card? There should be right there. Thank you.
Nancy Horvath for the record. I just wanted to say thank you for your consideration. And I had a question, but I didn't know how to ask it at the time of public comment because it had not been brought up yet. The question was raised about insurance for the houses and the declining value of houses that are existing out there. I didn't hear any of the commissioners ask about that, even though it was not addressed in the staff report. And I wonder if there is any way of addressing that at this stage. For us homeowners who are dealing with all sorts of developments coming along in many regards. That's just a question. But I thank you again for disapproving the changes that were proposed. Merry
Thank you.
Christmas.
Any other public comment?
I have none.
Well, we have a gentleman.
Oh,
We have
sorry.
a gentleman.
We have one more. Mr. Allen, thank you.
So just add to your comment.
I would just like to comment on the 395 corridor. Stonegate is out quite a ways. This project is another 6 miles out from Golden Valley. Nothing has been addressed as far as actually getting to where people are actually going to get on the highway. The other thing is that they said that they would build their own water treatment plant. Well, once you have a water treatment plant, the water has to go somewhere. Those are closed excuse me, those are closed basins, okay? And where it would filter down to is Silver Lake, and there's no outlet to Silver Lake, just like Swan Lake. So there is a problem down the road as far as that goes too. Thank you for your vote.
Thank you. Any other public comment? If not, I will close public comment. Oh, excuse me, I do have public comment. It's just to remind the public that the commissioners here serve. It's a privilege to serve, but it's also a duty to serve. And we do extensive amount of review and extensive amount of work. And we may or may not vote the way that the community wants, but I do ask continual respect for the process and for the commissioners. Written correspondence.
We do not have any.
Motion to adjourn. Is there a second? She said no report. Okay. Okay, we need a second on the adjournment. Okay. Thank you, everyone, and happy holidays.